ये S3 buckets और वो सब जब डाउनलोड करते हो तो इट्स एक्चुअल PDF फाइल्स व्हिच आर बीइंग डाउनलोडेड। तो उस तरह वेब 1.0 के जमाने पे सिर्फ वही था। ठीक है, तो सिंपल फोल्डर या फाइल बेस्ड राउटिंग होती थी वेब पे, और मतलब जैसे सीडीएनस होता है ना, अभी करेंटली लाइक जेएस फाइल्स सीडीएनस के थ्रू डिस्ट्रीब्यूट होती है, या एसेट सीडीएनस के थ्रू डिस्ट्रीब्यूट होते हैं। तो वो सब जो थे वो वेब 1.0 के अंदर कंसिडर मतलब कंसिस्ट। ठीक है, वेब 2.0 करंट वेब है, विच इज बेसिकली योर नॉट ओनली लाइक सर्विंग ऑफ डेटा, सिर्फ डेटा आता ही नहीं है, हम लोग मॉडिफाई भी कर सकते हैं। तो दिस गिव बर्थ टू योर ब्लॉगिंग एरा। ठीक है, ब्लॉगर और वर्डप्रेस लोगों ने लोग सुना नाम सुना होगा। दिस केम अबाउट इन वेब 2.0। ठीक है, जो जब आपके पास एचटीटीपी प्रोटोकॉल के अंदर चीजें आई, जिससे हम लोग मॉडिफाई कर सकते थे डेटा को, तब ये ब्लॉगिंग एरा स्टार्ट हुआ, एंड देन वी गॉट इंट्रोड्यूस टू दीज थिंग्स। ठीक है, एंड योर वेब एपीआई आल्सो फॉल अंडर दिस। ठीक है, वेब 3.0 इज द नेक्स्ट जनरेशन ऑफ वेब। ये अभी डेवलप हो रहा है, इट्स वेरी वेरी न्यू एंड वेरी वेरी एक्सपेरिमेंटल। ठीक है, सो यू हैव डिसेंट्रलाइज्ड वेब। तो इसका मतलब ये होता है कि इफ यू आर यूजर ऑफ वेब 3.0, यू आर नॉट ओनली लाइक गेटिंग द डेटा, यू आल्सो सर्विंग द डेटा। तुम क्लाइंट भी हो, सर्वर भी हो फॉर दैट डेटा, राइट? एंड यूजर्स आर ओनर ऑफ देयर ओन information. So at the moment, what happens is whatever information you're storing is on a server or in a storage device somewhere remote. You don't have access to it personally, okay? And somebody else can access it in theory, right? And that's why we have things like information leaks and database leaks. बहुत common है, सुना होगा, बहुत frequent होते हैं, right? So somebody came in. So P2P is Web 3.0. Yeah, pretty much. So Web 3.0 is based on the concept of peer-to-peer, right? So uh, users are owner of the information, and it is also often associated with blockchain. Jabki blockchain is a very small part of Web 3.0. Web 3.0 is again a concept similar to Web 2.0. It was a concept, and Web 1.0 was a concept. Web 1.0 said that we'll be serving and sharing resources and data, basically information, right? And 2.0 not only allowed sharing of these things, but also modification of these things, right? And 3.0 basically gives you the ownership, right? That's important. And then the next thing is need for a backend. Why do we need backend? So in any application, right? कोई भी application तुम बनाओगे, in any application, there are client side and the backend side. Okay, client side is anything that you're seeing. So at this moment, this browser, this specific page is client side. We are seeing this, so this is client, right? And there is some amount of hidden logic behind this that we don't know about, and that is the backend, right? And there is only two reasons for having a backend. That is to provide extra security and extra computational power, right? So whenever there is restriction of restricts the access of files, right? So backend basically restricts the access to files, database information, privilege logic, business logic from the public, and that is the security aspect of backend, right? And then there are services like Google Drive, GitHub, Collaboratory, Photos, which require additional processing or space and network bandwidth. Even things like just Google Meet require extra network bandwidth, which we cannot provide directly from a client device, right? And a client device not necessarily has that much amount of resources. So for that, we require a backend. So just these two reasons are there for having a backend, that is security and extra computational power. Okay, now backend as an umbrella term, right? So backend itself is used very, in a rough manner, very casual fashion. That it is just some code that is running on a server. But it's not just some code running on a server. It consists of multiple small services, and they're also architectural part of this. We'll go over this in the following session. We are not going to take a look at that. But basically, it is used as an umbrella term to it basically consists of everything that you might consider in a full stack application. Something as simple as your OAuth system or authentication system or emailing services, messaging services, database services, things like CRUD operations or database. Everything has its own service, and those are all consist under a single backend as well, right? And every service has its own port. Okay, so again, computer networking, you guys will be noticing these terms happen way too often. Okay, has its own port, networking protocols, टेक्नोलॉजीज एंड लैंग्वेजेस. हम लोग नोड का इस्तेमाल करेंगे फॉर आवर ओन सेशन, बट नोड इज नॉट द एंड ऑल बी ऑल. ठीक है, नोड इज जस्ट बिगिनिंग बिकॉज इट्स वन ऑफ द इजीएस्ट लैंग्वेजेस यू कैन लर्न, इजीएस्ट रन टाइम यू कैन लर्न, राइट, इजीएस्ट एनवायरनमेंट यू कैन सेट अप. So that's why we are using Node.js. But बहुत सारी languages है. Python also gives you a good amount of good amount of control on backend, right? Python के you guys might have heard of Flask or Django. ठीक है? So those things are also there. And obviously technologies are, there are many technologies. Just inside Node.js there are multiple technologies. Okay. So इनके ऊपर भी जाएंगे. We'll list these out and we'll go over them one by one. But at this moment we'll be going with Node.js, Express. Okay. Uh, Today we'll go over JavaScript. Okay, JavaScript, and we'll give you a bit of introduction to TypeScript as well. And इसका reason simple as that कि we want to make sure our backends are very secure. Okay, and JavaScript is a dynamic language. Okay, what does that mean? It basically means that JavaScript does a lot of type conversion by itself. Okay, you might have seen double equal to, triple equal to wali cheezein, and those are just because the JavaScript dynamic language hai, that's why it causes a lot of issues by itself. Okay, like even client side you might have faced such issues. Happens. Okay, to make those things more secure and more robust, we generally prefer having you know a static type system. Okay, and TypeScript provides that. So TypeScript we देखेंगे, we'll take a look at this after we just set up a basic backend. Cool. All right. So yeah. So every service has its own port. Okay. In case you guys don't know what is a port, in computer science, in computer networking, port is a simple number which signifies a process. Okay, and process consists of multiple programs and services. So port simply signifies it's simple. It's a simple number on your own hardware device. So every computer has a list of ports. Okay, and networking protocols. There are multiple networking protocols. Okay, you have HTTP, TCP, UDP. These are your networking protocols, which are we generally hear about this. We don't actually think about their practical applications. But when you think about your backend services, everything requires a specific network protocol, and you necessarily need to know about these network protocols if you want to understand how a backend properly works. Let's something as simple as a messaging service. So in case of a messaging service, your normal HTTP protocol will not be a good protocol for this kind of things. Again, we'll take a look at these a bit later. Cool. So let's get started. You guys can follow along with me, right? And Acha, by the way, till now, any issues, any questions, you guys can put into the chat. Nope. All right. All right. Cool. So in case if you guys have any question, just mic open करके बोल देना कि question, doubt, or something, whatever, right? Uh, all right. Let's start. So just open up your terminal. ठीक है? I use a Mac, so मेरा Unix environment है. You guys will be either using Windows or Mac या Linux in case. Commands will be mostly same, right? There will be a bit some differences. कुछ अगर if you feel like कुछ command नहीं चल रही है and you need an alternative for this, मेरे को prompt कर देना, नहीं तो बहुत सारे ज्ञानी लोग हैं इस meet में already जिनको पता होगा. ठीक है? Just you can ask me directly. So yes, so the first thing you're going to do is create a folder. So mkdir works in every terminal. Every open up your command prompt in case you guys are using Windows, and in case you guys are using Linux or any Unix based system, you guys should open up your terminal. Okay, open up to any location that you like. Are you guys following me?
Yes, sir.
All right, cool, cool. So I'll just name this something very simple as Node Express, right? Cool. So I'll just open up my own file Explorer once. Okay, cool. So we made a folder, Node Express, right? And we're going to change. We are going to cd into this. Cd stands for change directory. So cool. All right. So in Node.js, we actually create modules, right? So every application or every backend that requires a node is technically speaking a node module. Okay, and every module requires another module. Cool. So how would you say, like, you have libraries in other languages, right? In Node, we have modules, right? Even your Node Express, the folder that I'm creating right now, would become a module once we start installing dependencies and we actually create a package in it. Okay. Uh, I hope you all have Node and npm and everything set up for you guys. Okay. I'm thinking that you guys might have already these things set up. I'll just start right now. Okay. So the first thing we want to do is npm init, right? I'm going to do a hyphen y just to accept the default conditions, whatever they are. Cool. So now we have our package JSON set up, right? I'll just open up my code editor. You guys can also follow along and open up. Cool. Cool. So we have a package JSON set up, right? Yeah. Okay. So we named it Express versions description. You can edit this if you want. I'll just leave these as it is. And there are two things that we'll take a look at mainly, scripts and main. Okay. So when I'm saying that everything that that utilizes every modules that has a package JSON, right? Every folder that has a package JSON is a module, right? And it has a main. Okay. Main is the first file that gets executed when you are running that specific module. Okay. At this moment says index.js. Okay. But we don't have an index.js in our own folder. Cool. So we'll first create an index.js, right? And just to show you that I'm getting it started. All right. Let's save this, right? And if I do, yeah, if I do node index.js, or actually, yeah, it should run your index file. Anyways, so we are going to write a bit of scripts, some scripts here. So scripts are a list of command line, basically commands, right? And they run when you run it with the prefix npm run. Okay. So you can use either npm or yarn for this whole process. I'm going to stick to npm. The only thing that you have to make sure is that you have to stick with either one of those package managers. Cool. So I'm going to define a script. Just follow along as it is, right? We'll call this dev, right? And the only thing it is supposed to do is do a node index.js. Cool. Okay. So now whenever we run npm run dev in our node express module, it will do, yeah, it will basically run the specific command on this, and we have our output from the index.js file. All right. Okay. So let's get some of our development tools set up here. We're going to use something known as NodeMon. Okay. NodeMon. Okay. So for that, we are going to install this first, right? So npm install, right? And this hyphen d is important because it will be a development dependencies, and it will not actually install it in your node modules, and it will not actually take up space when you're doing it in production, right? And we'll do a node mon, right? So this will install NodeMon. Okay, and what does NodeMon do? So NodeMon, if you guys are aware of Watchman, I don't know if you guys are aware of or not of Watchman, but basically NodeMon takes a look at your, all these files that are in the current directory, right? And in case there are changes in any of those files, it restarts or reruns the command that you have given it. Okay, so we're going to change this from Node to NodeMon, right? And we're going to just rerun this npm run dev. Cool. So now it's running, and you can see index it says to restart anytime, enter rs. So you can restart directly here from here itself. And in case I make any changes to this, right, to backslash, cool. So it will again, yeah. So restart due to changes, and it will restart this. This is just to make the process a bit faster and to avoid any kind of time which any useless steps. Just exiting and restarting the whole service. Okay, cool. Now let's exit this and we're going to install Express. Okay. So what is Express? So when you're creating a backend server, right? You can use multiple. There are many ways to create REST APIs. Okay, and the way we are going to use the thing we are going to use is Express.js. It's one of the most popular JS projects at this moment, right? I think it goes up with your React and Express are like two most used frameworks. Okay, and in theory, you can also avoid Express completely, but Express makes our whole process much faster, and also it's quite a bit performant, right? The other ways of doing without Express require something like HTTP library, and those things are way annoying than what Express does. Cool. All right, so we are going to install Express, right? And that is going to be the only thing we require if we want to create REST APIs. That's it. Okay, cool. We have our Express installed right now. So the first thing you need to know about web servers is how does a web server work? Okay, so when your web server starts, right? It listens to all the incoming requests. So we have two things in our whole web server, right? First is the request and then is the response. Let's go over this one by one. So whenever somebody is requesting data from the server, it will it will actually point to a specific route. So let's say we go over to some let's see let's take the meet example, right? It says meet.google.com/whatever. So this in theory is a route. Okay, so what will happen is that it will point to a specific route and sub routes for it might be nested routes other than that. And what happens is that those route point to a specific function on your backend. Okay, so that function will actually take that it'll map or Express will map that route to the function, right? And that function will actually do the processing and the whole task that might be required by the API and return the response, whatever might be the thing, right? Okay, cool. So the first thing that we have required we just installed is Express. Uh, One second. Okay, yeah, fine. So we just installed Express. Okay. So, like I said, APIs are stands for application programming interface. It allows two applications to communicate between each other. So we have a client application on the front end, right? And then we have a backend application on the backend. So the thing that we're going to be creating right now will be our backend application, or also we call it Express application, right? So we're going to do const express equals require express. Let me just turn this off. Right. Okay. So require is very similar to your imports. So if you guys have attended the React session, you guys know about imports, right? The older method of doing, importing things was done using require. And we stick to older methods in Node.js in general because, not every library supports this kind of syntax. Okay. It says, hey, it's common, just not going to do yes module. So anyways, these are just standards and these are just habits that node programmers have. You might not require these, but it's preferable that you follow these. Okay, so the first thing is const express. We're going to use express and then we're going to make an application. Okay, so this will be simple as this. Cool. So yeah, so we made an express application. So this basically creates your express application, right? So first is importing express, right? And then creating a backend application or express application. Cool. So, and the next thing is app.listen. Now remember I said that every API service uses a port, right? A network port. So whenever we are running our backend server, it will be listening on a specific port. What does that mean? So let's say a specific request comes in, right? And this app.listen will actually define which port this server will be listening to. So let's say I have defined something like port 8000 here, right? So whenever a request comes to my server, whatever the IP is, followed by 8000, right? It will actually fetch that request, map it to a specific route, and that route will actually map it to a specific function. So it's a three-step process in general, right? And yeah, so I'll just give it a console.log right here, listening on port 8000. So again, npm, just like a package is an npm run dev, right? Right. So now it's listening on port 8000. Now your server is running. It's up and running, right? And we can directly create a route here. Okay. So app dot use. Okay. And then we are going to give a route first, right? Let's say we want to ping a server. Okay. Just follow along for now. I'll just clarify this once. All right. So what we did here, we gave a specific route slash ping. Let's just do it. Get yeah. So on route on our URL port 8000 slash ping, we are supposed to return a response saying pong. Okay. Just dumb route, but it makes sense to a specific level. Cool. So now that it's running on 8000, right? If you guys have studied a bit of computer networking, again, you guys might be aware of this guy, localhost. Okay. Localhost refers to your own device. Okay. And it can, you can also do this thing, 2700.1, also called callback or loopback address. This is also the same as your localhost. There is no difference, right? So if you go to 8000, it will show as cannot get 8000, cannot get slash because we don't have a slash route. We have a slash ping route. Okay. So you can go to a slash ping and we get a response as pong. This in theory is an API request. API, it's a complete API request. It is doing everything from it's receiving a request, it mapping it to a specific route, and that route runs a specific function. Okay. So it's doing everything an API is supposed to do, except it's useless. The only use of this request is to check if the server is running at all. Okay. So as such, we have about 3 minutes left. So I'll just give you a basic rundown of all the HTTP methods. Okay. So HTTP methods. Cool. Right. So let's just head over and HTTP methods. Right. Okay, so there are multiple HTTP method, and new ones get added every time a new version of HTTP comes out. Okay, and currently, so we have HTTP 0.9, which had nothing. It has a simple get method, right? And then we had HTTP 1.1 and 1.2, which brought along your newer methods like post, put, delete, those things. Okay, so I'll just go over these methods, right? So yeah. The get method is supposed to uh, in the REST API world, it's supposed to fetch data. Okay, so whenever you are using something like API dot app dot get, right? We are basically saying that whenever you are calling this route with the get method, we are supposed to run this specific function. Cool. So it is supposed to fetch data. At here, it's not. it's not necessarily fetching some data, but it is it's sending some amount of data. It's saying form, right? So get method is supposed to fetch data. Then we have our post method, right? And it will be a lot easier for you guys if you relate this to database functions, right? You have CRUD operations, right? Create, read, update, delete. We say often this, like CRUD, right? Create, read, update, delete. Cool. So create this fetch data is very similar to your read operation. Okay. Post is very similar to your create operation. So it is supposed to, you know, send data, send a new data basically, send new entity or data to the server, right? So using get method, we can actually fetch data from the server. Using post, we can send new data to the server, right? And then we have put, which is supposed to very similar to your update query. So it again sends data to the server, but this is generally data pertaining to updates. Okay, uh, updates. Cool. And then we also have your delete function. Delete is also a function. It's also an HTTP method, right? Okay, so this is supposed to similar to your delete part of the thread. It is supposed to delete data from the server. Okay, so these are like four most common methods in HTTP that we generally use. So get, post, put, delete, and
Patch,
any
patch,
doubts?
patch.
पैच तू पढ़ा ले ब्रदर. मैं भी चार मेन पढ़ा रहा हूँ. Okay, patch is also very similar to put. Okay. Uh, so anyways, so ये चार main functions and methods हैं HTTP that we are going to take a look at. And everything in REST has conventions. It has specific guidelines for every API request. So you'll have API requests which is supposed to send data. So you have to send data using get method. Okay. Then there are going to be requests where you're going to creating entities on database. In that case, you have to send, make a post request. So we'll take a look at these a bit later. We'll take a look at routing in Express tomorrow, right? So routing in Express and these methods again tomorrow. So we'll take a look at these. आज तो ये तक this was the first session, so we had a lot of theory to go through, right? And yeah, it's a lot of theory to go through. We just wrote 4 line of code, but it makes a lot of sense if you think about it in concepts of a theory. Okay, cool. I guess that's pretty much it for today. And I guess 30 minutes का हुआ है. Imagine 30 minute session, right? I'm hoping कि 30 minutes से लंबा session नहीं होगा, just because I guess you guys can keep your focus for 30 minutes, right? So any questions, any doubts, obviously you can question me. मैं Notion का link डाल दूंगा.